Welcome back to Taking Action, everybody. Hosting Anthony Conover once again without Chris. Don't worry, everybody. He is A-OK. Definitely wanted me to get that message out there. If you saw the Instagram or the Facebook, had a heart surgery, but everything is on the up and up. Already out of the room. Already out of the hospital, I should say. Same day type of thing. You had a meeting to get to. So strong as ever. Wanted me to let everybody know that he is doing well. Got a couple more things that he has to get taken care of on the health side of things. So continuing to get strong and make sure everything is A-OK. But he always wants to be here, sends his regards, and we still talk about everything. So don't you worry about that. Hope everybody is doing well, though, and enjoyed their wild card weekend. Hope it went a little bit better than it did on our end. We'll get into that when we review these games. But coming down to the end of the season now, it is divisional round. We'll have the championship soon. And then, of course, we're wrapping everything up with the Super Bowl. It's so crazy to me how fast the season goes every single year. You know, you always look forward to the season starting. If you play fantasy football, you're excited about that. Of course, the betting aspect, which obviously, we're very much into. Just seeing your favorite teams and everything. And then just like that, especially if your team is bad, the season is over. So we're starting to dwindle down, but as usual, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, commenting, liking. Even if you're not the biggest fan of the show, I appreciate the support. Having a little show like this was always kind of the dream. Went to school for media production. So this has always been a very fun thing for me to do, a nice little outlet to talk to everybody, have some comments back and forth. So greatly appreciated and always look forward to doing the show. But let's get into wild card weekend. The Rams at the Panthers. Rams get a 34-31 victory. There was a 10.5 point favorite in this one. This was a game that we were thinking about going with. Chris really liked. Ended up going in a different direction, but Panthers put on a hell of a fight. Can't say that they did not try. All of these games, really, besides the final two of wild card weekend, were great games. Panthers looked like they were going to be out of it by halftime. They ended up, still being in the game. And then it got crazy towards the end. Panthers did have a chance there towards the end of the game, came up short, but Matt Stafford playing great football. That's why he's in the MVP race. And listen, Bryce Young, there were some doubts at the beginning. Sometimes throughout this year, he didn't play his best, but you kind of love the leadership. There's the clip of him going around right now before halftime, standing in the tunnel, high-fiving everybody, telling them, let's go before they get into the tunnel. So you love the leadership side on that and kind of hope it works out for him because he's revived the franchise in a way. They were dreadful, at least during the playoffs. Now they were 9-8, but hey, playoffs are the playoffs. Jets fans, you would take that right now, wouldn't you? The Packers at the Bears. Now this was a heck of a game. Going into it, I thought it was probably going to be a lot more low scoring, especially after seeing what the weather was looking like. It looked like there were snow flurries and a super strong wind, which the wind kind of stuck around, but the snow was not as big as a thing as I thought it was going to be when I was originally seeing clips, probably like an hour or two before kickoff. But the Bears get a 31-27 victory in this one. Crazy comeback. Packers were up 21-3 at one point. A few field goals the Bears get. They score a touchdown. Another one, Packers take back the lead. Bears score a late touchdown, and then still comes down to the end of the game. Packers, had a play to get into the end zone. Not really a Hail Mary, because I consider that, when you're a little bit further away, but a shot to the end zone to end the game. Of course, come up a little bit short in that one. So the Bears move on, and what a great little feather in the cap of that rivalry. I can't believe it was only the third time that the Bears and the Packers had met in the playoffs, but it was a classic game. We move over to the Bills at the Jags. That ended up being the play of the week. Bills win 27-24. Jags were getting like 1.5 points in that game, so come up just short. A game that, I kind of, it kind of went the way that I thought it would. I thought the Jags would have to establish the run, which they did. I think they ran for over 150 yards, which is great for them. And then Josh Allen had to play Superman, and he once again did it. This Bills team is probably the worst one they've had in a few years. I mean, those teams that were going head to head with Mahomes were way better on the receiver side when it comes to this Bills team. But Josh Allen just keeps doing what he has to do. playing great football. They had like an 11-yard tush push, if you even want to call it that at that point, and then they eventually got in on the next one. And the Jags had a chance. They had a chance, but it's just a bad decision by Trevor Lawrence. You have a minute left in the game. Believe they still had a timeout through a tight window. Pass gets tipped. And, what they say, tips and overthrows, you got to have those. So the Bills get the interception with 59 seconds left, and that, sealed the deal. But great game in that one. The 49ers at the Eagles, another game that kind of went the way that I thought it would. Just in the opposite, a lot of things happened that I thought would happen, but in the opposite direction. Just be completely honest. The 49ers defense, still beat up. Eagles offense, I thought would have to capitalize on it, and they just somehow did not. I'm interested to see what happens on the coaching side of things. I don't think anybody's going to get fired, head coach wise, like Sirianni, but their offensive coordinator is definitely going to have to find something else to do. I watched a video, Dan Orlovsky, of breaking down the offense in the last few plays of that game. They ran the same play like 4 times, double slants or crossing routes in the middle and running goes on the outside. And it's just not a great offense. And if you see some of the videos coming out of Philly of, just a fan reaction, them walking out of the stadium, that's exactly what a lot of people want, is something new on the offensive side. 49ers lose another person to injury, which, you're not hearing that wrong. It's not deja vu. It's just keeps on happening. They've lost Fred Warner. We've gone over this every week, it seems like, but now George Kittle tears his Achilles in this game. So of course they're not going to have him the rest of the season, probably into next year. I wonder how far into the season that affects him. I do wonder if Fred Warner is going to be able to come back. They're going to have to keep winning in order for him to do that. I know he was shooting kind of for the championship game, so they would have to get past the Seahawks this week, which we'll get into, but lose another player. But Brock Purdy just continues to do what he does. McCaffrey, it's just all world. There's a reason that he was an all-pro this year. He's just kind of does everything. You go into the Chargers at the Patriots. Patriots win 16-3. I know they covered in that one. That was a 3.5 point spread. This was a defensive battle. Drake May did not have his best stuff in this one. His first playoff game, 2 turnovers. He lost the fumble through an interception. He fumbled again, but that Patriots ended up getting it back. But the story of this one, kind of like I said, it was the weakness on the weakness, but the Pats were just a little bit stronger on their side, I guess. That Chargers offensive line is just absolutely terrible. If you look at the PFF rankings that NBC puts up, before each game, they were basically last or second to last rated on every single offensive lineman. If you're Justin Herbert, there's really nothing you can do. I know everybody kind of jokes around about he's Mr. What If Man. He would do this if only he would do, kind of that situation. But I still think it's true. I think he's an unbelievable quarterback. It's just been, bad coaching to start his career with Staley. And now that he has Harbaugh, I think it's going to be able to settle down. And this year, it was just the offensive line. But that's going to happen when, you lose Rashawn Slater and then they draft somebody as well. And he goes down, Joe All, I believe it was. He goes down as well. So I'm looking forward to them coming back next season. Maybe the Chargers investing a little bit more in the offensive line and seeing what they can do. They still have weapons with McConkey. Amari Hampton, who was a rookie this year, missed a lot of time with the ankle injury, but he looked good when he did play. Gadsden, who they got at tight end, he played pretty well in certain games. Wonder if Keenan Allen continues to come back. So they definitely have the pieces there to be a good team. Hey, listen, they still won, I believe it was 11 or 12 games this year. So not a bad showing at all, but they just have to be able to protect Mr. Herbert there, which I think is the key to anything. If your quarterback's getting pressured, not going to have a lot of success. And then we wrapped up Wildcard weekend with the Texans at the Steelers, and the Texans put it on the Steelers. That would be a 30-6 win in this one, an easy game for them. I shouldn't say easy. I guess coming, after the fourth quarter, it got really easy for them. Just a really ugly, low-scoring game. I believe it was like 7-6 for a very long time, and then the floodgates just kind of opened. The Texans defense is unbelievable. We'll get into that when we kind of go over the Patriot game. But I think they had 2 defensive touchdowns. It was just an absolute massacre of Aaron Rodgers. He had a 14.4 or either a 13 something quarterback rating, which is like the lowest he's ever had in a playoff game. And I believe he's played in 22 of them. So it was was a bad showing out of the Steelers offense. And then the big news coming out today is that Mike Tomlin stepped down. I think that's a fancy way of getting fired without actually saying getting fired, because you don't want to disrespect somebody who's been there for so long. But another coaching vacancy, I would imagine he is not going to be on the streets very long, unless he personally decides to be. Maybe he takes a year to be an analyst and kind of have fun for a little bit and then gets back into coaching. But I believe there's 8 or 9 coaching vacancies right now. Just off the top of my head, I know it's the Browns, the Giants, Steelers, Ravens now, with, both historic coaches being gone from there. Falcons, trying to think of who else. But yeah, a lot of coaching vacancies. So I wonder who is going to go where. I know Giant fans, in our New York market are hoping that Harbaugh, or hey, now I wonder if they're hoping for Tomlin. I guess you kind of have your pick, because for once the Giants don't seem like a bad job to have. But that was the recap of Wild Card Weekend. And with that being said, we can kind of get into what is going to be a great divisional round. We all hope so. The playoffs are always fun when there are good games, and I feel like there's been good games this year because there is so much parity. I was talking about it before. This is the year. This year, I feel more than ever in my lifetime, at least, that you really just don't know who's going to win. We had the Patriot dynasty for so long. Shout out Tom Brady. Then it kind of directly went into the Chiefs, and even between the Patriots and the Chiefs, you had the Broncos that one year, or you would have the Eagles a couple times, but it was basically the same people every single year. You didn't really have too much going on. But this year, it's hard to predict. It is really, really hard to predict who's going to get there, because every time you're ready to kind of crown one team, they go out and kind of crap the bed, as a nice way to say. People thought it was the Seahawks for the longest time. They would lose to somebody. Then you go, oh, it's the Rams. They go on and lose to the Panthers, or, now it's the Broncos, and then they would have a terrible showing on offense. It's the Patriots, but their strength of schedule is so low. So we're kind of all over the place, but I think it's made for a very entertaining playoff, and I think a very entertaining NFL season. Had some great games, and let's hope it continues in Wild Card Weekend. That would being said, or not Wild Card Weekend, the divisional round. With that being said, the Bills at the Broncos. Bills open and stayed as 1.5-point favorites. That total open and stayed at 45.5. It's going to be another one. Josh Allen has to play Superman. It really is just that simple. The Broncos have a ferocious defense. They were on pace for a solid amount of the season to break the NFL record in sacks as a team. Don't believe they did so. They had the week off to kind of recover. It's always that question of, is that going to be good for them, or are they going to have a little bit of rust at the beginning of the game? And if they do, can the Bills take advantage of it? Because if the Broncos come out slow and, maybe the Bills can put up 10, 14 points while the Broncos are kind of getting back into rhythm, maybe they make it difficult on the Broncos to come back, because there are the questions about Bo Nix. You have the people that really believe in him. And then I feel like there's no in between. You either believe or you don't. So we're going to see in that one, but the Broncos defense has been unbelievable all year, putting pressure on the quarterback. You have Surtain to lock down the back, to lock down whatever receiver you want. And even then the Bills, Gabe Davis, I know got hurt in this game. Even Josh Allen, like I said, having to play Superman, he got roughed up in the game. I know he twisted his knee or his ankle on the goal line. He hit his hand on a helmet. He was holding that. So this late in the season, nobody's 100%. I think that's pretty clear, but this is a toss up. I went against the Bills in my predictions, I guess you want to say, last week, with going with the Jags and everything. I think I'm going to do it again. Broncos are the number 1 seed. They're playing at home. Mile High is such a pain for these away teams to come up and have to play at by the time you get to the third and fourth quarter, especially if the Broncos can run the ball, which the Jags were able to do against the Bills because they really struggle against that. If you can run the ball in Mile High by the fourth quarter, that Bills defense is going to be absolutely dead. So I think I'm going to go with the Broncos again in this one. If the Bills win, it's going to be off the back of Josh Allen, and he'll prove me wrong once again. That's the Saturday game. at 4, and then 49ers and the Seahawks. That's the late game on Saturday, which we're going to get into right now. Seahawks open 6.5. They moved to 7.5. And then that total opened and stayed at 46.5. Another game, Seahawks just beat the 49ers for home field advantage throughout the playoffs and the 1 seed a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago, I should say. Jawan Jennings came out at the post-game press conference and was very excited to be able to play the Seahawks again. Listen, 7.5 points in a playoff game is a lot. We saw what happened last week with the Rams and the Panthers. That was a 10.5 point spread. It ended up being a 3-point game. So you're getting 7 in the hook. If you're really a big believer in the 49ers, I can't blame you for going with it. The only thing that scares me is the Seahawks just beat them, and now the 49ers are even more depleted without Kittle. The Seahawks defense is solid. They can get pressure on the quarterback, and then with how injured that 49er defense is, it still scares me that the Seahawks can kind of do their thing. But in the same sentence, we have seen Sam Darnold kind of shrink in bigger moments. I know he beat the 49ers, which was a huge moment a couple weeks ago, but last year, remember, he was kind of in the same situation with the Vikings against the Lions, did not play well. And then that playoff game in the first round, he also did not play well. So maybe he bounces back and kind of shrugs that off of his shoulders. 7.5 is a lot. Hey, listen, getting the hook, a little something on the 49ers. I cannot blame you there if you decided to go that way. We'll go to the Texans at the Patriots. Patriots opened up 2.5 point favorites. That actually moved up to 3. Total from 41 to 40.5. This is going to all be about the Patriots offensive line and what they can do against that Texans front. Texans have the number 1 defense in the NFL. Scoring wise, they put pressure on everybody with Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. It's a problem. And Drake May fumbled the ball twice against the Chargers pass rush that I would definitely not say is bad, but I would say it's more middle of the pack. And the Texans certainly are not. So the Patriots offensive line, even throughout the year, was kind of middle of the road in win rate when it comes to a pass rush. So that's definitely the big matchup in that. Now, on the Texans side of things, you got to kind of be careful because they had 2 wide receivers leave this game, the big one being Nico Collins having a concussion in the second quarter. He had one earlier this year as well, I believe in week 7. He didn't return until week 9. So it's technically a short week for them playing Monday. Today's Tuesday when I'm recording this clearly. And then they're going to play on Sunday. So a short week, losing that day, I wonder how much that affects it. You know, it's concussion protocol, so it's not really a pain. It's not a pain tolerance thing, or can he play on it if he's just tough? No, I mean, it's concussion protocol. So you just wonder if he'll be able to pass it. If not, that's a huge loss for the Texans on the offensive side. Patriots have 2 good corners with Carlton Davis and Christian Gonzalez. So without Nico Collins, you're kind of shifting everybody up, and then the Patriots are going to have their guys to be able to play solid shutdown defense on them. I still like the Patriots though. We might even have a little something going on the juice reel involving the Patriots and somebody else. Just saying, if you want to go over and check out the juice reel, the link is always in the description to see what the play of the week is going to be. So we already have that out actually. So if you are subscribed to the juice reel before this show is even out, you already know what it is. But yeah, Patriots -3 at home. This is probably their biggest test. The story of them the entire season has been that they haven't played anybody because of that strength of schedule. But let's see how they can do against a Texans team with an unbelievable defense. And then, CJ Stroud was the talk of the town when his rookie season kind of struggled recently in the last 2 years, but we obviously know that great player is in him. So we'll see what he can do in this game. And then the final game for the divisional round, that would be the Rams at the Bears. Rams open and stayed 3.5 point favorites. Actually, no, open 3.5. I believe it's down to 3 right now when I just looked before the show started. Total from 50.5 to 51. I think it's pretty simple. The Bears just have to start faster. They are very good at making the comeback and being able to win the game at the end, but against a team like the Rams with a veteran quarterback of Matt Stafford and a great coach like McVay, you can't have these slow starts and be down these astronomical amounts. I mean, 21-3 against the Rams. I don't think you're coming back. The Packers have had, their history of blowing games even before LaFleur got there. I just don't think you can do it against the Rams. They have to start much quicker than this. And I don't like the people that are saying the Bears are playing with house money, kind of because nobody expected them to be here already. Listen, when you get to this, you got to recalibrate your expectations. They are the number 2 seed. They've played extremely well. Caleb Williams has kind of made that jump from year 1 to 2. Ben Johnson, that was a great hire. And listen, 3.5 home team underdog. Where have you heard this before? Big fan of that. So the Bears are a solid player. Like I said, you want to go over to the juice reel? There might be 1 or 2 plays in already. Just saying, just throwing that out there. But yeah, Bears have to start fast, and the Rams just have to continue to do what they do. I mean, Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams is just an unbelievable combination. Even if Devontae Adams and Stafford are getting like 1-yard touchdowns every single week, doesn't matter. Touchdown is a touchdown. But with that being said, that's the divisional round. I wish the best of luck to everybody that is partaking in putting a little something on these games. And like I said, if you want to know what we're doing, go over to the Juice Reel, subscribe. You only got a couple weeks left. So, if you want to round out the season with making some dough, go over there and subscribe. After this episode, only 2 more left, the championship game and then the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll get into some prop bets for the Super Bowl. I always find those fun around the Super Bowl. It's a lot easier doing prop bets on one game than trying to figure out prop bets on, 16 or 15 when everybody's playing at one time. But with that being said, appreciate everybody watching. Chris will hopefully be back soon. But like I said, he is A-OK. Sends his best wishes, and thanks everybody for sending their best wishes to him. I know the Instagram has been receiving plenty of DMs wishing him well, and he definitely does appreciate that. I appreciate everybody for watching and tuning in. Like I said, it's always a great time, no matter what the comments are or anything like that. I've always had a very good time doing this because it was always that dream of me to kind of have a show like this and have that audience reaction, that back and forth with everybody. It's always a very good time. So I appreciate everybody watching. Leave a like, leave a comment, tell a story, say hi, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Good luck.